Hi there, my name's Peppermint. I'm also known as Newt Soup on the KSP forums. Today I'm going to be starting a new Kerbal Space Program series in the final version of the game, which is aimed at new players. Now, I'm not massively experienced in the game myself. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't played with in the new expansions, which are making history and breaking ground. So I'll be learning as I go along as well. As you might have, well, you haven't noticed yet, but I am playing in the Linux player in Nabara, which is based on Fedora. Nabara is an excellent Linux distribution for gaming. It's got a wonderfully supportive community, and I would highly recommend it if you are looking to venture into Linux gaming. Now, there are a few other guides out there which teach you how to play. They mostly use career mode, which involves doing missions for cash and managing a budget. Instead, what I'm going to do is a science game, but to add some of the challenge back in, I shall be playing with just 10% of the normal science rewards. I will be playing a mostly unmodded game with just 2 of what I consider must-have mods, and I will explain those as I go along. Now, without further ado, let's get into the game. So, first of all, I'm going to start a new game. And this will be called Peppermint Aerospace 10%. Because it's 10% science. Now I switch it to science mode. Now I want to go into the difficulty options. And first of all, what I'm going to do, see this science rewards here. I am sliding that down to minimum for my 10%. But what I'm also going to do under advanced is I am going to enable Kerbal experience, because I like my Kerbals to level up. It means they start with 0 stars, and every time they gain a star they get extra abilities, and they gain their stars, they gain their experience by doing missions, by going to space, going to planet surfaces and so on. And I'm also going to pop in require signal for control, which means for long distance probes I'm going to need to set up a communications network. So we'll accept that, and then let's double check that. 10% science rewards, re-entry, heating 100, resource abundance 100, yes. Stock difficulty, just science rewards and the Kerbal experience. So let's start that game. It'll just take a few seconds to load. Now, the 2 mods I've got installed are X-Science, which will help us determine when and where to get our science rewards, and something called Kerbal Engineer Redux, which gives us extra information about our orbits, about our spacecraft, and well, like I say, I'll be explaining this as I go along. So I want focus follows click for click-through blocker, which is installed with one of the other mods, so don't worry about that. I use CMCAN for installing mods, by the way. Highly recommend that as your mod manager. Just accept. Right, so welcome to Kerbal Space, well, welcome to the Space Center. Nice to meet you. I'm Gene Kerman, Flight Director and your guide for this quick introduction. So I think we'll tell him thanks, I've got that, and we're just going to jump straight into the vehicle assembly building. And this is where we're going to build our very first rocket. So, hello, I'm Werner von Kerman, Chief Rocketry Engineer. Yep, this is vehicle assembly building. Got it. So, first of all, we want... well, what have we got? What have we got, actually? We've got pods. We've got an Onion re-entry module. We've got the Mark 1 command pod. We have a Flea solid rocket booster and engines. We've got no fuel tanks. We've got nothing in command and control. In structural, we have a modular girder segment. Nothing in robotics, nothing in coupling, nothing in payload. Aerodynamics, we have a basic fin, that's it. So we're not going to be able to do much at the moment. Thermal, electrical, communication, science. Now, we do have a mystery goo containment unit, and this is what's going to give us our science to start off with. So, what we want, cargo, oh, a parachute, excellent. Cargo, that's the jetpack and the personal parachute for our Kerbals. So first of all, what we're going to go to pods, and we're going to choose the Mark 1 command pod. And because we want to save a bit of weight, we're going to take all the monopropellant out. Not that it really matters, but it's good practice if you don't need it. Because weight will save you fuel. Saving weight saves fuel. So we've got an engine. And what a lot of people would do is they would just go to science, turn on radial symmetry for 2 by clicking on that, and then we could pop down that and pop a parachute on. Oops. Now that would let us, let's move that window there, that's the Kerbal Engineer window. I'll come to that in just a second. So, where was I? Yes. Now this would work, it would give us science. We can use 2 of these, and we can gather the science from these in 2 different locations, but that's not what I want to do. So I'm going to park this to one side, I'm going to park these to one side, I'm going to go to structural and add in some weight, but there's a reason for this, because we're not going to go that high and it doesn't make any difference at this point. And remembering that we are on 10% science, we need to gather as much science from as many different places as possible. Now each science tool can only gather science from one specific place at a time. So you know, if you gather it from the launch pad with the goo container, that science is now gathered. You can't gather it with the goo container again later. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn this up to 4, so we've got 4 goo containers. That's better. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm also going to pop these over to one side again. And it's actually going on the top. There's a reason for this. Because it makes it easier for Kerbals eventually to grab all the data if you need to. And that's it. That is our first rocket. And what we're going to call it? We're going to call it Goo 1. And now we're ready. So off we go to the launch pad. And if you're a new player, this is where our very first mod comes in useful. So here we are on here. I'm going to move the flight engineer up to the corner, out of the way, and we have here this X here, and we're going to click that, and we're going to this is all the science that's available on, well, in the game actually, but what we're going to do is available right now. So we can do a crew report whilst landed at Kerbin's launch pad. So we do the crew report by right-clicking and selecting crew report. You record the crew's assessment of the situation. We'll keep that, and it gives us 0.2 science, which isn't very much. Now we can do an EVA report whilst landed at Kerbin's launch pad. So to do an EVA report, we go to our pilot, Jebediah Kerman, and we click EVA, and we right click on him and we do EVA report. That gives us another 0.2 science. Now whilst we're out, we can also do a surface sample. So we can right click on him, of course, and we've got take surface sample. Oop, there we are, 0.9 science, that's better. Keep that. Now we could try and access a goo container, but if we click observe mystery goo, it says up there, mystery goo observation can only be externally controlled by a scientist. So what we're going to do is we're going to go, well, first of all we're going to take the data for the command pod, Now this is important because the command pod can store any number of experiments, but it can only hold one crew report at a time if it's not stored. So what you do is you take it out and then you store the experiments, and then you can get back in and then you'll be able to do another crew report. So if I choose crew report now, it'll offer to do that, but we're going to reset that because we can't collect the same crew report from the same place now. But now we can do the goo science. So we'll observe the mystery goo. The goo doesn't seem to be doing very much right now, but it does give us 0.3 science. Now then, we've completed everything that we can from here. So I am going to pop this, no, I'm just going to leave it there. So now what we want to do is we want to check our staging down here. Yep, we've got a solid rocket booster in the lower stage, and the parachute in the upper stage. So when we hit the space bar, it will launch stage 1 first, and then when we hit the space bar again, it will launch stage 0. And I'm going to turn on SAS, which is what Jebediah can do, and at the moment all he can do is do stability assist. So then we hit the space bar to launch, and immediately we've got some new science. Now let's tip over because I want to land in the sea. So we can do a crew report while flying. So let's do a crew report. And let's also do some mystery goo while flying. And the last one we can do is an EVA report while flying, but we are travelling at over 100 meters a second, and Jeb will fall off if I do a crew report now. So what I'm going to do is parachute by pressing the space bar. That's now deployed. And are we going to make the water? Maybe. We might come down on the ground though. And then when the parachute deploys, I am going to pop him out onto the outside of the craft and take that EVA report. So the parachute will deploy at 1,000 meters above the terrain. You can see at the moment it's all folded up and it's just slowing, keeping us fairly slow. I'm not going to bother with time warp yet. Not worth it for this mission. Down we go, and the parachute opens about now. There we go. You can see it's opened. We slow right down, and so we're going to pop Jeb out onto the side. I'm going to right click on him, EVA report, and we'll keep that. Then we will take all the data, store all the data. Remember that clears our crew report slot. Then we're going to go back inside by pressing B, and we are 60 meters above the sea. And splash down. Right, now we have more science to do at Kerbal Shores. So this is Shores data. So first of all, we are going to do a crew report again for another 0.2 science. We are going to do a goo observation. Yep. 0.4 science, that's nice. We are going to do an EVA report. It says, I don't think a spacesuit was entirely necessary to get here, was it? No, but it's worth it for the 3 science. 0.3 science. And then what do we need? We need the surface sample. So presumably this is just a water sample. Take a surface sample. You've taken a sample of the water here. There are bits of vegetation in it, suggesting a strong likelihood that there is land nearby. I think so. And let's keep that. Now, just out of habit, we'll take all the data, then store all the data. We've also got data stored in each of these. So I'm not going to reset that. I could collect it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to join, and then let's go back to the Space Center. So we bring the mouse up to here and select Recover Vessel. And here we get to see the fruits of our adventure. So we earned 5.8 science. Science 5. Next. 1 experience gained. But no stars yet for Jeb. So we've got science, and now we want to spend the science because we want more stuff. So what can we afford with 5 science? We can afford either basic rocketry, which will let us go higher. That gives us a new solid rocket booster, some swivel liquid fuel engines, and a fuel tank. Now those are great, but let's have a look at the other box. We've got Engineering 101, which gives us a decoupler. It gives us a thermometer. Now the thermometer is really good because that is more science, and what we need is more science, and we can add that to the goo. It also gives us communication, which we're not going to use yet, but because the decoupler and the science are, the thermometer are so useful, we're going to take that first. So we'll research that. That's done. Now we're at 0.8 science. We can't afford anything more, so it's time for our second mission. So let's get straight to it. We're going to go in here. And what we're going to do is we are going to keep Goo 1. We're going to rename this to Goo 2 because why not? And now what we're going to do is we're going to go straight back down to science. We're going to add our 2 hot thermometer and press X on the keyboard a couple of times, 3 times to bring it up to 4 symmetry. Now we've added 4 thermometers. Now we could just take the data and reuse it every single time because pilots can reset thermometers, but they can't reset goo containers. You need a scientist to reset a goo container, which is why I've got 4 of them. So, but I've added 4 thermometers just for convenience. Now, the other thing that we got was the decoupler, which I'm actually going to make use of. So, we've got 780 meters per second of delta V at the moment. In theory, that means that once we fire that rocket booster, we accelerate from 0 to 780 meters per second of speed. We accelerate from 0 to 780 meters a second, but I'm going to get rid of that bottom one because we picked up a new booster. Did we? No, we didn't. No, we've still got this solid fuel booster. So what I'm going to do, I'm still getting rid of it. What I'm going to add in is the decoupler. And you see that instantly adds another stage down here. And then I'm going to add that, which then adds in another station. Now we've got stages 2, 3, so spacebar will fire the solid fuel booster, and then it will fire that decoupler, and then it will fire the parachute. But we're going to do more than that now. What can we get away with? I think we can try for quite a bit. So what we're going to keep an eye on this up here. This is the engineer display, and it's set to Kerbin. We can actually set that to any planet we like, but we're going to leave it on Kerbin at the moment. And the altitude is set to 0, so we're looking at full atmosphere. And our thrust to weight on Kerbin's thrust to weight ratio on Kerbin's surface is 7, near enough. That max 11 is in a vacuum, but we're going to go with 7 for the moment. That means we could lift 7. If our vehicle was 7 times heavier with just this booster on it, we wouldn't actually take off. Our thrust to weight ratio would be 1, so our weight would be holding us back as much as the thrust is lifting us up. But what we're going to do is add a decoupler, which adds mass, and then we're going to add in another one of those. Now it goes down to 4.5, look, on one stage. And what we're going to do is we're going to move that booster up here. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. We're going to add that decoupler up to that one. So when this fires, it also ignites this engine on the same press of the spacebar. So we light that booster first, then we decouple and light that engine together. And now we've got 1,216 total delta V, made up of 2 stages. One is 450. The lowest stage is 450 because it's carrying more weight. The second stage is lighter once it's discarded the bottom booster, so it has 766. But we've got plenty of thrust to weight ratio left, so we're going to add more engines. So here's a third one. 3.34. Let's go one more. Scroll down. And I think we're going to want some stability now. 2.64. We could potentially go one more, but I don't think we are going to. We've got 1700 meters a second, so we're into diminishing returns now for the amount of delta V we're going to get. Delta V, by the way, is change in velocity. So, but let's add some stability as well. Now again, for symmetry, and we're just going to pop that on that one, and then we're going to do it again for this one, because we're still going to be in the atmosphere in the thick parts for most of these, and it looks nice and silly. And for this one, let's send Valentina up. She's another pilot. Right, so back to the launch pad with GU2. So we'll save GU2, and then we'll go to the launch pad. And here we go. So, X-Science remembers what science we have done. Now we could try and take a little more science from the surface sample, but I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. But what I am going to do is I'm going to do a temperature scan. So let's pick any one, temperature scan, log temperature, and that gives us 0.2 science. Good. So keep experiment. Now the only thing left to do is T to turn on SAS for stability, and we're going to hit that spacebar. Oh, let's check the staging. Now we combined the decouplers with the engines that ignite, so we want this decoupler to ignite with this engine, so we're going to move that up, and then we're also going to move that one up so it ignites with this engine. Right, so now we've got a total of 6 stages, counting from 5 to 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each time we press the space bar, it'll light that one, then these ones, and these one, then this one, then this one, and then finally the parachute. Now then, now is there a compact mode for this? No, there isn't. not going to worry about that at the moment. Let's leave it as it is. So we are going to hit that space bar. And immediately we've got more science available, flying. So we're going to log the temperature again, 0.6 this time. And let's light that second stage. We're going to tip over, so we're not landing in the ocean this time. We're going to go a different way. And then light that again. So we're now travelling at 400 metres a second. Our apoapsis is rising. We're now going to go to a total of 20,000 metres up, but we've got one left, taking us to 20,000, 30, 40. We are actually going to make it not quite into space, but never mind. Once we're over, so now we're flying high, we are going to do a goo observation, a crew report. We're going to do a log the temperature for 0.7. How fast are we going? We're quite high up. Let's hit F5 to save the game. I'm going to risk it and do an EVA. Yes, the atmosphere is thin enough. Keep that. We're going to take all the data. We're going to take the data from this. Oh, no. I'm going to take the data. Then we're going to go back inside. And what have we got? Flying high over Kerbin. SAS on. And let's point our craft backwards. Oh, we're still going up at the moment. So here, I think I'm going to use the time warp. Now, you use the comma and period keys for time warp. So I'm just going to go up once, 2 speed, 3 speed, and then now we're on our way back down again. Look. And is it safe to fire? Have we got a rocket left? Ah, no, it's going to fire this. So we can jettison that. We are speeding up at the moment. So whilst we're in the atmosphere, we're in what's called physics time warp. So as we come down into the thicker atmosphere, we will start to slow down again, I hope. Yep, down we go. And if you notice, the parachute is red at the moment, which means if we were to force it to deploy, we would die. And I don't think we're gonna crash, aren't we? We're gonna crash and die. No, no crash and die. 200 meters. Oh, there we go. Now, there we go. We're gonna be okay. Oh, flying over Kerbin's highlands, so we can do another crew report. Got more science to do. We're going to do an EVA report. And we're going to get back in. Wow, that was lucky. That was very risky going out of the... Observe the mystery goo. Keep that. Have we got anything left? We've got one left. Flying low. Let's... Time warp is at 1. Right, parachute's opening. Temperature scan. Log. That explosion was the bit of our rocket landing that we jettisoned. We might have missed some science here, which is unfortunate, but it happens because there's a lot happens all at once. We've got one goo container left, which is we're going to use that when we land. So I'm just going to increase what we got, 1,000 meters. What have we got? That's above sea level. Above the right, so above the terrain we are 40 meters, 30 meters, 2, and we are down. Excellent. So now we can do, well, if I do a crew report now, you'll see it's asking me if I want to overwrite it, and I don't, so I'm going to cancel that. Instead, I'm going to do log temperature from here. I'm going to observe the mystery goo and keep that. Now I'm going to EVA, whoops, graphics. We're going to do the EVA report. We're going to take the surface sample. We're going to collect all the data, then store them all, then go back inside by pressing B, and now we can do the crew report. And that is all the science that we're going to get out of this mission. So once again, we bring the mouse up to the top and we can select recover vessel and see what we've got. What haul did we get? Excellent. 7 science. So next, and 1 experience point for Valentina Kerman. So I'm going to go straight into research development to spend our lovely science. Now we don't have enough for any of these. We've got 8 in total, so we're just going to make do with basic rocketry. So, but that's good. That gives us a hammer solid fuel booster, a swivel liquid fuel engine, and a fuel tank. So let's research that. Leave facility, and that is where I am going to leave it today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope it's been instructional for the new players.